Hello Stingray boys and girls and parents. Today we are going to divide fractions, and once again we're going to see the inverse relationship kick in, because when we divide fractions what we're really doing is we're multiplying the inverse, and you'll see what that looks like in a moment. Okay, let's try a couple problems together. Here we go boys and girls, we are dividing fractions, and this is pretty cool actually. It's a little bit more complicated than multiplying fractions, but for the most part it's not that bad. There's these little thing that I'll teach you just to remember the process or the steps involved. It's the first thing that you want to do is you want to copy the first fraction down. I'm just going to recopy. This is called copy. You might be saying, okay, Mr. Yerk, this is real exciting. Then the next step is dot. Well, that dot looks like a multiplication sign, and it is. Okay, there's our dot. And then our last step is flip. Okay, here's the exciting part, flip. Now what are we going to flip? We are going to flip or put the inverse of 2/3. We're going to flip the numerator and denominator, and we're going to copy it down over here, but we're going to flip it so it becomes 2/3 becomes 3/2. Okay, and this is the flip step. So first step is copy, second step is dots, and the third step is flip. So copy, dot, flip. And now we can multiply. 4 times 3 is 12. 9 times 2 is 18. And we can reduce this. Well, what factors? Well, 2 will go into both. They're even numbers, both the numerator and denominator. But when I take a closer look, I say, hey, I think a 3 will go into both of these. I can factor a 3 out of 12. 3 will go into 12 4 times. And I can also divide a 3 out of 18. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Hey, I'm not done yet. I can factor more out. I can factor a 2 out of here and a 2 out of here, and I'm going to end up with 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So my final answer is 2/3. Now some of you that are inquisitive are probably saying, Mr. Yerk, you were dividing something out of the numerator and denominator. Let's go back to our original problem. Why can't we just divide 4, take 4 and divide it by 2, and take 9 divided by 3. Well, let's see what happens. Okay, if we do that, let's recopy it. Okay, 4 divided by 2 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Hey, we can do that. Okay, and for those of you that wanted to do this problem that way from the very beginning, there's nothing wrong with that. But here is the problem. Let's take a look. Not all dividing fraction problems are created equally, because let's say if we have something a little more complicated or something that's not as friendly. Let's say we have 5/7 and we want to divide it by, oh, let's say 2/3. Now if you tried taking 5 and dividing it by 2 and 7 and dividing by 3, good luck. You're going to have a pretty ugly looking fraction. It's going to be very complicated. When you have a problem like this first one up here, 4/9 divided by 2/3, it just worked out perfectly that you could divide it straight through, because 2 is a factor of 4 and 3 is a factor of 9. But as we can see down here, we're not having that. All these are primes. So let's do our copy dot flip strategy. And why can we do this? Because multiplication is the opposite of division. So what does that mean? Well, 4/9 divided by 2/3 is really the same thing as doing the inverse, the opposite, which is multiplying it by its inverse when you flip it. So what we're doing is we're doing almost like a double negative. Okay, we're changing the division to multiplication, and if we just were to stop there, we wouldn't get it. But then when we take our fraction and we flip it, okay, we're now multiplying it by the inverse of 2/3. And in mathematics, that's like a double negative. And you can get away with it. Okay, so dividing is the same thing as multiplying by its inverse, and we'll look at that later more closely. But let's practice our copy dot. We have 5/7 divided by 2/3. So our first step is copy the first fraction down, 5/7. Then we put a dot, and we're just changing our division sign to multiplication. And then we have to flip our second fraction. So 2/3 becomes 3/2. And then we multiply straight through, and this is easy. 5 times 3 is 15, and 7 times 2 is 14. And hey, this is an improper fraction, and we can't reduce it all. There's no common factors, but we have to change this improper fraction to a mixed number. 14 goes into 15 once, and I have 1/14 left over, and there's our final answer. So remember, when dividing fractions, we just have to copy, dot, then flip. We copy our first fraction down, we put a dot there because we changed division to multiplication, and then we flip our second fraction to its inverse. That's enough for today.